Welcome to the Seed Creative Podcast, the podcast where we discuss both video production and just life in general. The goal of this podcast is the same as the goal of our business, to make a difference in people's lives. Hello and welcome to the Seed Creative Podcast. My name is George Edmondson, along with my co-host, Nick Golden.
Sup? Back again, baby.
Golden boy.
Yeah, I've been on almost every episode.
I know.
So have you.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're the hosts.
I think that's a good idea. We should just be host and host, not host and co-host.
Yeah.
Anyhoodle, today we're going to be talking about tour stories, not Toy Story, but tour stories.
This is Tour Stories 1. No, I'm just
Tour Stories 1. So I used to be in a band and I would tour, and I always find myself telling these stories randomly, so we thought it would be fun to share a few with you all today. But before we get started,
we have several things.
What are we going to be doing before we get started?
We're going to be doing a Q&A segment. So we mentioned this a couple times, but we have a link out there in the ether on George's Facebook where you can submit a video asking us a question and we'll answer it. Literally anything. I mean, maybe not literally anything, but like most things.
Anything.
Okay.
We will answer any question that you ask us.
Literally anything.
Yeah.
If you want to know George's bank account information, we will answer it.
I might lie, but it'll be an answer nonetheless.
Just in the amounts, not the actual numbers. All right. So anyway. We are answering a question from Billy. What's his name?
Billy Causey.
Billy Causey. So I'm going to play it and I'll put it in. So here we go.
Hi, George. I was wondering if you could give some advice on how to be more personable with clients and be competitive in an environment where you're such a small fish comparatively to the other options that clients have in the area. As you know, I've recently moved to the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, and I'm just some person from the middle of Alabama who went to college for video production and has a little bit of credits behind, in cinema and music videos, and has done a ton of commercials. But I don't have, say, the experience that some of the people here who have worked on National Geographic projects and Discovery Channel projects and, who have won Emmy Awards. I find myself in a very difficult to compete position while also feeling like I come off as being too serious and off-putting and not personable to people. It's a question I don't know if you can actually give like an answer to, but if possible, any advice would be much appreciated because you are such a personable person and you come off very likable to people, where I feel I tend to be a bit more serious and cold in my interactions with other people.
I have an answer right off the bat. I'm
going to let you. Okay, so let's let you answer this first.
It's actually not that serious. I was going to say, to be more personable, you should have greeted me as well.
Oh my God. He doesn't know you though. You weren't here because he came by the studio one time a couple of years ago. Okay. I don't think you were with
no,
us
but
yet.
I just because I'm on the podcast, I just wanted to be a jerk.
Billy,
so
don't listen to him.
Don't be like me.
Yeah, best thing to do. Don't be like Nick Golden, and you're covered.
That's it. All right.
So I was kind of writing out some bullet point answers, so I apologize if I miss anything, and if I do, Nick, then remind me.
I got you.
But one of the things you're talking about, like trying to help be more personable, like a small fish in a big pond. And then you also hit something that I think I'm going to hit on a little bit more, honestly, because at the end of the day, what I try to preach to people is be yourself. So if you are coming across as a little bit more serious and to the point, okay, that's fine because that's who you are. And I don't think that it's ever a wise decision to change who you are, change your personality just to try to fit in or accommodate to like your surroundings. Now, there are obviously times when you need to be able to read the room and say, I need to talk more or I need to talk less, or I'm losing their interest. Let's switch gears and ask them a question, stop talking, and say, all right, I've talked enough. Like, so do you have any questions for me? What are other concerns that you may have in regards to working, or not concerns, but like what are some other details that you might need, if we're going to work together or whatever. But first and foremost, I might come off as like personable and energetic or whatever, but that's just because that's who I am. I will give you an example of something. When I first started, I actually tried to modify my behavior based on those that were around me. And if I was around in a meeting with people in suits and ties, I literally would show up to meetings in suits and ties because I was like, I need to fit in and be like them, and I need to be a little bit more serious and stuff like that because that's who they were. And I was honestly not as I didn't do as well in my sales, and just my confidence wasn't there because I was thinking about modifying my behavior, and that's never wise. So look, dude, if you are cold, if you are to the point, just be that way. It's okay. Like, it takes all kinds of people. This is what I want to hit on more. You made a mention about I'm around people that have a lot more experience than me. They've been on these big shoots, they've been on these big shows. Experience does not always equal competency. So just because someone has been in the industry, just because someone's been around on these big shoots and they have all this talk about how they've been around big stars and stuff, that doesn't mean that they know everything. That doesn't mean that they're competent in creating content that's going to be beneficial for the client or is going to get the story across. Dude, there are lots and lots of people that we have worked with. I've talked about this on other podcasts, from LA, from New York, from these prestigious areas, and they show up and they don't do a good job. Hands down.
Yeah, being from LA does not mean that you're going to do a good job.
Oh, you've been on a shoot with Tom Hanks. So what? What does that? I've been in the room with Nick Saban multiple times. I'm still terrible at football.
Yeah. I've shook Biden's hand. I'm not the president.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
And you're not in politics at all.
No.
So just because someone has been has experience, quote unquote, again, that doesn't equal competency. So it sounds in your question, I might be going a little too deep in this, but it almost sounds like that statement is hindering or is motivating your confidence, and you're thinking you're lacking confidence because you're like, these guys have more experience than me. They've been on shoots. They've been doing these things. It doesn't matter, dude. None of that matters. You know what you are good at and you know what you are capable of. Do that and don't worry about the other stuff. And again, don't try to modify who you are to try to please the person on the other end. It pleases me when people are real and honest, and if they are quiet, be quiet.
Right.
That's fine. Perfect example, Mr. Gavin over here. Gavin,
he looked at us. Sorry.
I know he made a little silly face. Gavin, for the most part, isn't the guy that's gonna get up in front of everyone and start talking real loud and being all wild, and because that's just not who he is. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, behind closed doors, Gavin is a goofball,
and we're trying to get him to be the goofball that he is on camera.
Yeah, because we know that's who he truly is. But at the same time, I also know that his personality isn't the one to say, hey, go up in front of this big crowd and give a 30-minute speech about camera gear. Whereas if I were to do it, or even Nick Golden, someone that has that personality that's more geared toward that, okay, that's fine. So I'm just saying that Gavin came in, Gavin is just real. This is how he is, and he's awesome, and he doesn't let us motivate him to try to be someone that he's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, motivate might not be the right word, but I know what you mean. Like change him. Like
right.
Yeah. I think that another good thing to do is also be very personable when you talk to people. Like, don't there's obviously a level of professionalism that you need, but like you can be casual in your conversations with a client or somebody that is more personal. Like a perfect example of that is like we work with Lisa Noel Smith for, sometimes, and she's super like casual. We're talking about how's your kids, George? Like,
yeah,
like it's
she'll
like
hug
friends.
everyone in the studio.
Yeah, like, it's like your friend, and you don't have to go that far, but like just ask them genuine interest in how their day is going, that kind of stuff. That can stand out, especially for people that think that they have more talent than they really do, because those people are often like kind of jerks, like honestly, like people that think they're entitled to better gigs are often also jerks. Like,
I fully agree.
Yeah. So like
this could turn into a rant podcast.
Yeah. So that's how you can stand out. I think.
More tour stories.
Yeah,
Let's
it's done.
Just talk bad about other. I'm just kidding. Sweet.
Well,
so that was our Q&A segment. If you have any questions, we have a Google Doc link that should be in the description of this video. Submit your questions. We'd love to hear from you. We love answering and talking about them. Now, to the meat of this podcast.
Tell me, George, why did you go on tour? How did that happen?
That's a great question.
Give us the I'm more interested on stuff that like happened on tour, so just give us the like brief of like how you got on tour.
Okay. So I've always been a huge fan of social media and the power of social media. And I think early on I found a way to harness that power when only some people on the bleeding edge of that understood how much it was going to change the world.
Right.
And I'm not bragging. I just think that I caught on. But I think I was among some of the first kind of people that saw, holy crap, like these things that we're doing online can turn into actual like dollars.
Which is interesting, I feel like, because you are at the same time, you're also the kind of person that uses things until they stop working.
Oh, sure.
So it's interesting that you were such an early adopter of something so new. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a two sides to the, not that you don't like new things, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I'll use the crap out of something until it falls apart. But at the same time, if I see something that I know is going to work and work well, I'll jump on it. The Atomos, for example.
Because you're about efficiency.
I had no idea that the Sumo existed. A week after I found out about it, I ordered it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, oh, bro, this is perfect. This is gonna work. And it's not an old piece of tech, but it's been around. I just didn't know it existed. So anyway, how did we go on tour? How did this happen? I was in a band. I was in a couple bands and like learned how to play music and stuff like that. And we did some recording, saved up, paid money, and we had this little thing called MySpace.
Whoa. I never had one.
Now, MySpace, if you aren't aware, was, I would say, the first real legitimate like social media platform. We had LiveJournal, we had Zanga, we had AOL Chat. We had things like that, but MySpace was really the first place that there was a lot of like interactions with people on like a quantity scale, like just thousands and thousands of people at your fingertips.
Do you know what year it was started?
What year was MySpace started?
Yeah.
I'm going to assume, just based on how I worked with it, 2003, 2004?
2003.
Yeah. So that's when like we were on MySpace like
immediately.
Immediately.
Right.
And I was on it nonstop. I will go ahead and say it was an obsession that became like it was a problem.
Yeah.
Now this, I think I've talked about this before, but like I'm one of those people that gets so laser focused on something that it's like a freaking issue. You know what I mean? Like I get obsessed with it. So I was obsessed with the idea of like MySpace and people knowing who my band, we were called Dead Man in Reno. You can look us up. There's a bunch of old videos and stuff on YouTube. We were a hardcore like metal band, screaming, double kick pedal, all the things like that.
You were screamo.
We were not freaking screamo.
He hates when I say that.
Metalcore.
Someone will listen to this. In fact, it is very likely someone will listen to this and know that I just like made you upset because
it's
they
not
know the
screamo.
difference. Yeah.
There's no Anyway, so we put our music out, and I would just sit on MySpace for hours. Like, there were these things called bulletin boards, just posting bulletins, going and adding people, going and talking to what now is called influencers. But back then, they didn't have a title. There was no name. I would just go and find these people. I'm like, oh my God, like these people have like millions of followers because they were like the first ones on MySpace.
Right.
And I would see, okay, they have gauges and tattoos and weird hair. They must be into metal. And I would message them and be like, hey, look, like I will send you like our album for free, or I'll send you like exclusive music or like something.
Right.
If you'll just post a bulletin that like, oh, I love this band, go check us out. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, cool. And so these people would post a bulletin, and then boom, we'd get like 5,000, 6,000 more like likes and subscribers and stuff. And again, this is all like influencer was not a word, but I just understood that's how that works.
Right. It's like it was like a celebrity, like meeting a celebrity. Yeah,
for sure. And so we were able to build up. Now, again, at the time, it doesn't sound that impressive now, which is crazy, but at the time, we were able to build up to like 500, 600,000 plays on like, which it would equate to like views on a video.
That's a lot.
Like on our MySpace player. But
That's
again,
not a joke.
this is like super early on. You know what I mean? And so we got that, and we sent out these demos of these 2 songs to a bunch of record labels, and we got a lot of interest from a lot of them. But the biggest one was Candlelight Records in I think they're in England. They're a European black metal like company called Candlelight Records. I think Opeth was on there. I'm almost positive Marilyn Manson was on Candlelight at like first, and then he got bigger. I cannot remember though. I might be wrong, but I have heard there. Anyone that's into like metal music knows Candlelight Records is no joke. Like they're legit.
Yeah. Huge deal.
And so they contacted us, and we were like, oh my God, like Candlelight Records, dude, this is crazy. And they said the biggest thing that caught our attention was the fact that you had over 500,000 plays on your MySpace page. So obviously people like you, and so we wanted to give you a shot. And they told us that they were trying to break into the more of the American market, and they knew that we were more marketable because we weren't black metal. We weren't so crazy. Like, we had melodic harmonies and singing and stuff like that. And so we were kind of their guinea pig, apparently, along with a couple other bands.
Like
so
no risk, like you're not going to, like you weren't a risk for them is essentially.
Yeah, we weren't a risk, but, at the same time, it was a legitimate, they wanted us to do a 1-year contract that would convert into 3 albums. 1 album, and that would convert into 3 albums if both parties agreed after the first album and all this kind of stuff. But then they were like, and we'll give you a $35,000 signing bonus. And we're like, oh, bro. Like, and especially then, I'm like 18 years old, 19 years old. Like, that's a ton of money for a band that was used to playing for pizza and gas money.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Like, we were like, dude, we're going to get $35,000.
And how many people were there in the band?
5.
Yeah, so 6,000.
Well, so here's the thing. All of us just invested the money back into the band. None of us kept any of it. So we bought like a van and bought some new gear, like some new,
Smart.
Yeah, like we were like, okay, let's get a new guitar head and a new... Justin needs a new distortion pedal, and I need new drum heads, and we did, and we bought a van and a trailer and stuff like that. So, anyway, so we did that. They got us a music video. We did an album. We recorded with Jamie King in North Carolina, who recorded like Between the Buried and Me and Glass Casket and a bunch of bands that people that are into this music know who Jamie King is. And then we released our album, and it was going really well. And Candlelight was like, well, your first real tour, we want you to tour in Europe. So we had done some like light touring around in like, like the southern half of North America, like not a lot, And we're like, bro, like we're going to freaking Europe. Like this is insane.
How do these deals work? Like, do they pay you like for the album, or like do they pay you per performance? How does it work?
It was super weird. So, there's a lot to unpack there. Like probably too much to even really get into.
Okay.
But like essentially, there were like a certain number of CDs printed. And after so many CDs sold, we would get like, like 60% of the sales. But like the initial investment that the Candlelight made, like had to get paid back first. And it was like, 1,000 CDs had to sell before we actually made money on CD sales.
Right.
It was like weird crap like that, but we would get paid for every gig that we did.
Okay.
But see, it wasn't much, because a lot of the money was going to recoup and repay the tour guide or the touring manager, we were on like a tour bus, like a double-decker, incredible tour bus. It had 16 bunk beds in it. It was because they were triple stacked. Yeah. Like it was nuts. It had 2 lounges. No, it had 3 lounges. It had one in the front in the top part, one in the back in the top part, and then you went down this like kind of spiral staircase, and there was a like a little kitchen and a bathroom and like a little area, almost like a dining, like a bar where you could
all
sit
this
at.
in one bus.
It was all in one bus.
That's
dude.
crazy. Dude.
It was nuts.
That's crazy.
The bus that we got on. Oh my gosh, what's that band? It's not Metallica. I do have a fun Metallica story though. I think I've told this on the podcast. But,
not sure.
What was that band? Oh my god, I can't remember now.
Describe the band.
It's not Metallica, but the other big metal band. Oh, dude,
it's not Metallica.
Let me look it up. Hold on. I feel so bad now.
It's the Beatles. Are you looking at like bands like Metallica?
Yeah. It started with an S. Slayer. There it is.
I was going to say AC/DC.
Slayer. No, Slayer had just gotten off of this bus.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we went and got on it. The tour was sponsored by Jägermeister.
Oh. I think
it's alcohol. Yeah. So they forklifted a pallet of Jägermeister. They had to forklift it onto like part of the bus for like the tour to just like give away on tour and stuff.
So like this is the only vehicle you had total. Like everything you had on this trip was on this bus.
On the bus and on the trailer.
Okay, so you did have a trailer.
We had a trailer, but we had roadies. Like we had like people like drum techs, people that would go and set up our guitars and gear for us. Like it was legit. But again, because we had all that, we only made, I think it was like 200 pounds, which is maybe like $400 per gig per night,
right?
Which has to split between 5 people.
So basically, they're just paying for you to be there, and did they pay for your food?
Yeah, like we didn't make any money.
Did they pay for your food and stuff? Like,
no, this is where it gets crazy, bro.
Oh gosh.
So this is where the tour stuff gets like really interesting. So they're like, okay, like we get over there, we get in England, we land. We like meet with the tour guy and we meet with them, and they like get us on the bus. We start touring. And we realize that we did not set up something called a rider. Do you know what a rider is?
No.
So that's whenever you're going to show up to a venue, bands have riders. And what that means is these are the requirements that have to happen for us to play at your venue. And those riders typically include meals, waters, beer. Like Jennifer Lopez has like crazy things on her rider. Like I only have fresh cut white roses in my. But like one of the reasons that people do that, y'all are getting like a full like deep.
I love
breakdown.
this. Keep going, bro.
So one of the reasons why like big stars have these crazy things that they have to have on their riders is so that if for any reason you do not fulfill that and they don't feel like playing the gig, they can say, well, it wasn't on the rider, and you still have to pay them.
That makes sense.
Because you showed up.
Contract.
You signed the contract, and you didn't have fresh cut white roses in my dressing room, so I'm not playing the gig, and you still have to pay me.
We should start doing that for our video projects.
I want fresh cut white roses at every shoot.
No, George wants U-Perk coffee.
Yes.
No matter where we are. So, like, if we're going to Poland to film a documentary about motion VFX, you're giving
U-Perk future potential gigs away. You need to hush. I'm just
Okay,
I mean,
just
I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. We can leave that in, but that might be something that we do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, if we can, get over there and things right now are not like the greatest.
Oh,
over
was
in
I
that
not supposed to
part of
give
the
away
world.
the documentary thing?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's okay.
sorry.
We don't.
I thought you meant. like
It might
don't
happen. It might not happen.
Don't
Who
make that
knows?
joke because
No.
people are gonna be offended. Okay.
No, not at all. So anyway, we did not have a writer, and we didn't know. So we show up, no food, no waters, no anything for us in our dressing room at every show on the tour because it had already been booked. Everything's booked.
Oh gosh.
So the other band, we're like, okay, like we don't know, we don't realize this until a few gigs in either because we're used to touring for like gas money. You know
Right.
what I mean? And like we're just like paying out of pocket for everything. Well, we go in this other band. So, okay, let me back up. The two bands that we toured with, people were going to laugh. There's a band called Sixth. That's Sikth. Really, really popular in Europe. They were the headlining tour. We were the mid-level supporting tour band. So, like, we played before Sixth. But then there was another band that played before us called Architects. And Architects is now bigger than us and Sixth, like 5 times over.
Yeah.
They're freaking huge.
You played me some music from them. I was like,
they're amazing. Yeah. So it's so weird that Architects was supporting us, and we heard them the first night, and we were like, dude, they're way better than we are. Like, this isn't even... This is like hands down.
the show gets progressively worse.
Like we're just like defeated when we get up there. We're like, we don't want to follow that. They were way better than we are. Anyway.
It's because they had food.
That might be why. So we walk over into Sixth's dressing room, and we're like, dude, what the crap? They've got like waters and beers and Sprites and like sandwich platters and fruit trays, and we're over here starving. Because we have no money. Like they're paying us £200 per show, and we have to divide that between all 5 of us. I just got married a month ago at this time, which is the other thing. I left my poor wife at home after we had only been married for a month. We had no money. So any money that I was getting, I was wiring back to America so she could like pay bills.
Jeez, dude.
So I'm like, when I got off of that tour, I weighed 115 pounds.
What'd you way to start with?
Like 130.
Jeez,
I lost like 15 pounds in 30 days.
That's pretty crazy.
Because I was doing nothing but playing drums, drinking water, and then like stealing food from Sixth and stuff when they were
this never got resolved. You just had to steal food the whole time?
Yeah, like we would go into Sixth's dressing room. Now we had a little bit of money, so we would, we'd eat like a meal every other day.
Jeez, bro.
But like we were surviving on like just like chips and like garbage food, and like leftovers from the other bands and stuff. So it sucked. And again, I'm not blaming that on Candlelight or the other people. Like that was our fault because we didn't know.
That's crazy.
One of the other things is like Dead Man in Reno was, I believe we formed as an LLC, and we were all like part owners in the LLC and all that. So like contractually, like everything was between Dead Man in Reno LLC and each of the separate venues. You see what I mean? It's like Candlelight was just our record label, and Candlelight like booked the tour for us and stuff, but like all that other stuff was on us.
Right.
And so we just didn't know what we were doing. So, dude, there's so many stories. Like, I don't even know. Do you have any questions before we kind of get
shocked.
in?
I did not see. Here's the thing. Like, I'm such a picky eater, okay, that like when I go somewhere, I'm like, but like, what's the food gonna be? Like, that would be my first. That would have been my my first question when signing the contract is there food included on the trip? Like, that would have been my first.
We were just so excited that we were getting
no,
to do,
I get
like,
it. I get
Europe
it.
and stuff. So talking about food, so here we go. Segue perfectly into one of the many stories that I have. And I'm not going to tell them all on this trip, like on this podcast, because I mean, some of them I can't tell, but there's some that like, I'm just going to forget and then be like, crap, I should have told that one. Anyway, so.
Well, there's more podcasts to come. So
halfway in the tour, we are in like Scotland, and
What was the route of the tour? So you just said Europe. So
Yeah, so I think like
Ish.
crap, I can't remember. The first one was like maybe an hour north of London. I can't remember. I know we played. Dude, we need to just look at like.
Just give me major destinations that you went to.
See,
Like,
I don't remember half of them because we were like we don't know where the heck we are. Like, okay, we played Edinburgh, we played Glasgow, we played London. You know, we played a couple places in Wales. Like I can't remember the specific cities, but it's like basically every major city in England we played.
wow.
And then we did like 3 or 4 in Scotland and like 2 or 3 in Wales. But like there, you know, England's not that big.
Yeah.
So we were like, we hit all the big places. So anyway, we're like halfway through. We're I believe it was in Scotland. We're going through and they're like, oh, like this tour or this venue is like also owned by a chef or something. It was like this weird situation where they were like they're gonna treat us out to like a really nice meal that he prepares for all of the bands.
Ooh.
And we're all starving, you know. We're like, dude, this is incredible, like because they were like everyone's gonna eat so good, and they're like they're making shepherd's pie. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, it's so amazing. It's like peas and mashed potatoes and like beef and like all these like great foods that if you mix it all up, it just tastes so good. If you're a Southerner and you make it the Southern way, this is the issue. We're eating this over in Europe.
Yep.
They don't make things the way we make them.
Yeah.
So I'm starving.
It's
okay?
like a meat pie. Oh gosh.
I'm starving, and I'm like, dude, this looks so good. I can't wait. I bit into it, and I almost puked. It was so bad. And all of these European dudes, hey, I love them, but their taste buds are different, are just scarfing it down. And we're starving, and I can't eat it. I can't. It's that bad. I felt horrible because they were like, yeah, you know, what's going on? Like, why aren't you eating? And I'm like, oh, I'm just not really hungry. When in reality, I was like starving.
So you didn't eat any of it?
No, dude, I couldn't. It was awful.
See, I like, you know, I went to
It
England.
was awful.
I had some food. Yeah, I just said I'm picky, and I was very picky about what I ate, and it was very difficult. So
I'm sorry, bro. England, y'all got to step up your game. You got to step up your game with how you make your meals.
Hey, cream tea though, man.
There were so many.
that
There
kind
were
of
so
stuff.
many like funny food stories though. Like one of the things I will never forget. We're in the room at this point. This is like later in the tour. Like we're almost done. Sixth knows, all right, these guys haven't been getting food. Like you can come have some of our sandwich platters, you know, whatever. So I go over there and I'm making a sandwich and I'm like, you know, ham, cheese, mayonnaise, mustard. That's it. This is not a big deal, right?
Right.
They looked at me like I was insane. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, what? And they were like, you put mayonnaise and mustard on your sandwich? And I was like, do you not? And they legitimately thought I was insane that I was doing that.
Wow.
Like, there were so many just weird food things.
I mean,
dude.
I'd have
Like,
to agree because I don't like mustard or mayonnaise, but no, it's
But
it's
that's a
normal.
regular. That's
It's
a regular
normal.
thing.
Yeah,
Gavin,
yeah.
do you eat mayonnaise and mustard on your sandwiches? Crap.
Yeah. Remember
I'm
when,
the only weird
when
one.
we go to Hooligans, he only gets
Oh,
no
okay.
mustard.
Well, anyway, they thought I was insane for eating mayonnaise.
That's
and mustard.
really funny. I love the like. You're like, oh yeah, I'm finally getting a sandwich, and you're like making food, and they're like,
And they're making fun of me for it.
oh, they're like,
I
oh
also
my
got
gosh.
like totally made fun of for being a Christian. That was a whole other like a
yeah,
whole other thing that like
that's rough.
oh man, because I'm not gonna say I was the only one on tour, but I was the only one that was outspoken about it.
Right.
Because like I had some like grievances and complaints with kind of like how things were going. And again, that's some of the stuff that I'm not going to talk about because I want to respect everyone on the tour. But I was like, I'm representing myself as much as I am the band. And when the band represents me in this light,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
anyone would say there's no way that anyone can be a Christian in that band. That's one of the reasons I quit. So, but again,
we'll give you
Yeah, we'll
tell that story at the end. Yeah.
We'll tell that story at the end. We might have told it on the podcast.
I don't
already.
think we did.
Are you sure?
I'm sure someone will. I really don't think we did.
Okay, maybe not. Anyway, what are some other questions you have? I've got other stories, but I don't want to like.
Tell me about like what was the best part about being on tour? What made it worth it? Because like right now it sounds terrible, but I know it wasn't overall terrible.
Yeah. So I've talked about this before in our goals podcast. One of my goals was to be in a band that did a music video, that got signed, that toured in other parts of the world. So if I could go back, I would change absolutely nothing about it, because the experiences, both good and bad, helped shape me and inform me about the way the world works. And so I do want to make that clear that, like, overall, I'm so happy that I got that experience.
You wouldn't go back and try to have food at every place you went?
I don't think so, because then I wouldn't be able to talk about it on the podcast. I'd be like, oh, yeah, it was great. I ate like a pig. Like, you know.
It was worth 30 days of suffering for a 1 hour podcast?
Sure.
Okay, well, there you go.
Because it doesn't matter now. I've gained it all back. Don't worry. So, yeah, the benefits, though, dude, are just the experience, like the friendships that were made on the tour. Because even though I was messed with and made fun of as, you know, oh, you're a Christian, whatever, it's like they were still like, but we love you.
It was lighthearted.
No, it was not lighthearted.
Oh, okay.
No, it was like we got in like big arguments about about it and how can you believe that stuff, and you know, but again, it was like you can fully disagree with someone and still love them, obviously.
Right. Okay.
And so there were like legit fights about it. Anyway, but yeah, dude, the experience and just like seeing other parts of the world and the way that they live was just so cool, dude. Like it was so freaking cool because one of the things that I love, like when I went to Jamaica, I was the same way. I want to do touristy stuff like 30% of the time.
Right.
And the other 70, I'm like, I want to see where the locals live.
Yeah.
I want to see how they, like, what is it like to be, like, to live in Scotland?
Right.
What is it like to live in England? Not what everyone sees on TV over and over and over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I actually have an interesting story to go along with it, like really briefly. When I went to England when I was a sophomore in high school, my grandpa lived there for a while, so he took me to this place called Swindon, and you've probably never heard of that, and that was the best part about it. We actually make fun of him a lot because when I tell people places, you know, they want to hear, oh, how was the Eye of London, how was the Tower Bridge, but like, and we did all that, but like the coolest part was we stayed in this like really small, it was a Marriott, but it was still like a tiny hotel compared to the rest of the places. And it was in the middle of like a neighborhood, and I learned local things. I ate at local restaurants. Like I went to places that like, you know, regular people eat. It's like us going to Hooligans, but you know, and that was my favorite part too, because I just think that is the most interesting thing about traveling. Like you don't want doing the touristy stuff is just having like the world we currently live in just like pasted onto like a different setting. Like that's all it is. So anyway.
So the town that I remember the most was a place called Ilfracombe in England, and no one has ever heard of Ilfracombe. Tiny little area, and this was apparently almost like a pity stop, from what I understand, because when we went there was not a big crowd like there were other places, and there were people coming up to us like thanking us for doing the tour there.
Wow.
And saying like, these kids don't get to do anything, they live out in the country, you know, and all this stuff. So it was really, really cool. But like there's some, you know, some images I'm showing you on my phone. We can maybe pop some up or whatever, but there was like this lighthouse there. I can't even remember when it was from. It was from like the 1500s or like there was a bar or a pub there that the floor was all like moved around and shifted because it had been there since like the 1300s.
Yeah,
or something.
it's
like,
crazy. That's the thing. We don't have like we have history here, but like
it's a couple hundred years old.
Yeah,
like,
most of the stuff we can't. Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously it's older than that, but like anything that like is standing and that is around in Alabama is only couple hundred years old.
Yeah, like
you know?
the churches in England that are like hand chiseled
Yeah.
like statues that are like the most impressive thing you've ever seen, and it's done by hand, and it's like this huge wall. Like,
and
how?
it's been there for what, like 1,000 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Like just insane.
People. I'm convinced. This is a small tangent. I think people can't build as well as people did back in the day. Okay, no, hear me out. People were smarter back then to figure out stuff with nothing. Like, they figured out how to make these buildings last. Because right now we have the math. Like, we can be like, okay, this brick will crumble after 2 billion hours of rain. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I we're not actually dumber, but like, I just think that they had a higher IQ to like building. I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
It is interesting. But yeah, I think just seeing that kind of stuff, seeing the castles, seeing the churches, seeing like stuff like that was like, I would not have ever, and probably will never do anything like that ever again in my life. You know what I mean? Where I get to go and see so much all at one time and technically get paid to do it, and I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
I also racked up $1,000 phone bill from calling back home because I was an idiot and didn't realize.
Man, that sucks.
Like, it's long distance.
So you lost money on this trip for
Oh,
sure.
I lost tons of money. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure, and we were so broke, I'm pretty sure we just like had to like switch cell phone providers because we were like, we can't pay it. Like, it's $1,000.
Yeah, and they pay it off when you switch it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, it was T-Mobile. Went to Verizon.
I heard T-Mobile's good now.
Been on Verizon ever since.
AT&T gang.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's what made it worth it. What is okay? You told me this story, but I think this story is like crazy. It's the one where you like walked over a bridge and there was like the crazy guy.
I love that story.
Yeah, tell that story.
So in the band Sixth, there are 2 singers, and one of them is named Mikey Goodman. Mikey is a very, 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 very interesting human being. Very kind, to us anyway. I mean, I'm just talking strictly from what I know on tour. But he's kind of like a hermit crab where he would come out, he'd do the show, and then when we get back on the bus, he basically gets in his bunk bed and is like either writing or reading, and that's it. And it's almost like he doesn't exist, but he's in there. Like, he's in there. It's so weird because, like, you're going about your day, like, doing things, and, like, you're friends with all these people, and then out of nowhere, Mikey pops out, and you're like, oh, my God, you've been here the whole time. Like,
that's funny.
So, anyway, so Mikey and I get hungry, like, and it's really, really late. It's after a show, and like I said, we had a little bit of money, like, so I'm like, okay, like, I'm starving, we got to eat. Where's the nearest place? And, there was a lot of fish and chips that we're eating. And so anyway, we're like 3 a.m, 4 a.m, something like that after a show. He and I are like, okay, well, we've got to go over like about 3 blocks. So we've got to like go over this bridge, and that's the closest place that's open. And we're walking, and he's one of the ones that's like really, really kind to me about being a Christian. Now, I'm not going to speak as to what Mikey fully believes because at the time, it may be different now. At the time, from what I could tell, he's one of these guys that kind of believes like, you want to believe in that? That's cool. That's true for you. This is true for me. You know what I mean? And again, if I'm messing this up, I truly do apologize. But that was the impression that I got when I was speaking with him, because when I was like, yeah, I'm a Christian, he's like, okay, cool. Like, he was cool with it. He didn't get mad at me for it. But then he starts to talk about, like, he believes that, like, this rock has a soul and this tree has a soul. And, we're in this, like, really deep conversation about things. And we're walking across this bridge, and we look over, and there's, like, these dudes just, like, sitting in a dark alley. It's like a movie. And it's like you can see the light in their eyes, and that's it. Like, really, really creepy.
Yeah, geez.
And I'm like, dude, Mikey is a shrimp. Like, he's a little like I am. Like, we're both really skinny. But he's got, like, these big long dreads and this crazy long beard, and he's pretty wild looking. He dresses real wild. And we're walking, and I'm kind of, like, keeping an eye on him because they are, like, getting closer to us. They're walking towards us.
Okay.
I'm like, dude, it's like 3, 4 in the morning. There's no one out here. It's pitch black. Like, we're about to die. Like, we're about to die. We are about to be murdered. And I'm kind of watching. I look over at Mikey, bro, and he's got this look on his face. Like, his eyes get real big, and he's just like almost like foaming at the mouth, scary look. And he's just looking straight ahead and like walking. And I look over at these guys, and these guys stop when they see him. And they kind of like do a double take at each other, and they turn around and just walk the other way. And I'm like, dude, how did you do that? And I like asked him, and he was like, if you just like look crazy and look like if you mess with me, I'll eat you, almost like they'll leave you alone. He was like, I've been mugged like so many times and all this stuff. He was like, I know how to like deter them, basically. So I'm like, truly, like, he saved my life. Because these dudes, I swear they had like knives or something, and they were about to like come and rob us. I don't know. But it freaked me out.
That's crazy.
Never did that again. I was like, you know what? We're all going as a group, or I'm not going to eat tonight. You know? So
yeah, that would have sufficiently.
Oh, dude, I'll never forget it. Like, that was one of the most terrifying experiences like ever, because it's like you don't know, and you're in a foreign country. You know what I mean? Like, my cell phone is back at the bus, and it's not like I could afford to call anyone anyway. So
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it was terrifying, but that's one pretty wild story from that.
How about you tell us what ended up happening and why you left the band and how that happened? And yeah,
I've got one more story.
Okay, you tell me. Go ahead.
Great. So after the tour, Christy and I, that they actually tie together. So Christy and I had just gotten married. We were only married for a month. I went on tour. Terrible idea, I know. But so she flies over for our last show in London, and we're like, hey, we're going to stay, because the rest of the band wanted to, we're going to stay like 3 extra days or something like that in London, maybe 4 extra days. Just for fun, because we can actually like be tourists, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so we had planned on that for a while. And anyway, Christy gets over there, and she and I have been talking this whole time, and we had made the decision based on just the way the tour had went, that I just needed to quit. One of the contingencies was going to be if they would allow Christy to tour with us and pay her way as well, that we would consider staying if other things could also be improved. You know what I mean? So it was like there were multiple contingencies.
Was she, you don't have to speak too much about it, but like, was she upset with you?
About what?
About like being gone that long? Or,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has every right to be.
Because you just got married.
Not only that, but like, dude, no one wants to be away from their spouse, someone they love, for 35 days at a time. And, you know, the plan was us touring, you know, probably 250 days out of the year, maybe more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't live that way. So anyway, so we get in this big meeting with these tour people, and like everyone's there. It's right before our show in London. Christy's there, like all this stuff. And they're like, you know, we've got some great news. We're working on this tour. We're going to send you all on tour in or it's actually going to be a global tour, I think. But like a lot of North American dates with Metallica. So we're like, oh my God, like this is insane. You know what I mean? You're going to be like it was Lamb of God and Metallica. So we were going to be we were the first band.
Okay.
The architects of that tour. It would be us, and then Lamb of God, and then Metallica. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Like, we love these bands. And then I stand up, and I'm like, okay, well, like, here's some things. Like, I want my wife to be able to go with me, but there's also some other things we need to do. And basically, they were immediately like, absolutely not. Like, we can't afford that. Like, they said, you're going to have to tour for years before we can afford to send additional people on these tours and all this stuff. And I said, well, unfortunately, I have to quit. Just like that.
That's it. I mean, obviously you talked about it, but like no one knew.
The room was just silent, dude. It was so weird. Like, because they just invested a ton of money into us. You know what I mean? They invested more than that $35K. Like, they sent us on tour. They did all this stuff. They printed all these CDs. They did the music video, like the album, all these things. You know what I mean? Like, they put a lot of money into us, and they were putting more into us.
I feel like not a lot of people quit at this point.
Yeah, like, we just got going.
Yeah.
But, dude, like, I can't live this way.
Right. Yeah.
And not only that, but I can't live on tour and say, yes, I'm a Christian, and then go on stage and have things said that were being said that were just absolutely inappropriate. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't do it. So anyway, I was like, look, I will fulfill the rest of the shows we have. I will do a good job. I will train the new drummer that takes my place. Like, I will be here because I want the band to succeed. I just can't be a part of that success. You know what I mean? So they kind of came back to me and they pleaded. And they were like, please just, like, let us see if we can work this out and all this. Like, the tour people and Candlelight. And anyway, said no, not going to happen. Moving forward, we play the show. We're told by the tour manager, you can stay at my house. You know, because you have nowhere to go because we're about to be in London for like 3 or 4 days. Great, cool. He's like, you just have to get yourself there. Here's my address. Cool. See you later. We get our gear. Some of us have some gear. We've got some guitars. You know, like I've got some cymbals and stuff I brought. Like I was using the other drum set, so I didn't have a full drum set, but I had like part of a drum set. Like we're walking through downtown London at like 2 a.m. We're like, all right, we got to get to this guy's house. So we got to get to the train station. So it's me, my beautiful wife, who's only 20 at the time, little tiny like 20-year-old blonde-headed girl, and 3 of the bandmates, and we're walking around in downtown London at 3 a.m. with all this gear.
Not a great situation.
We get to the train shop or the train place, and it's closed, and it's gonna be closed for like 4 or 5 more hours under maintenance. And we're like, dude, like we're gonna have to sleep on the street. Like 4 dudes and Christy, like just sleep on the street. We're like, okay, well, we can't do that, so let's call a cab. So we call a cab. Cab comes up. Hey, cab driver, here's the address we need to get to. How much will this be? He just laughs. That's all he does. He laughs and drives away. We're like, dude, you've got to be kidding me. What is going on? We're freaking out at this point.
Yeah.
We can't do the train. This is the closest train station. Like, everything's closed. Like, it's pitch black outside. We're in downtown London. All this gear. Oh my God. We hail another cab. This guy's way nicer. And we're like, here's where we need to be. And he's like, well, and we told him what happened to the other driver. And he said, well, the reason he did that is because this is like an hour and a half away. And this is in a cab. And he was like, the bill for this is like $400 because he's got to then drive back.
Right.
And we don't know what to do. That's all of our money because we're already broke.
Right.
And we're like, well, we have to do it because we have to get to this guy's house. This is where we're staying for the next few days. So we give him the money and we're like, whatever, screw it. So we get to the guy's house. Finally, we pay basically all of our money. We have maybe $100 left, like per person, or like not much, not
Right.
enough. And we're like, okay, well at least we made it to this guy's house. We wake up the next day. He's super nice. He makes us a terrible English breakfast. He says, "Would you like to have blood pudding?" I'm like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Well, it's fried blood, or whatever it is." I'm like, "Nope, I'm good." I'm telling you, y'all gotta fix that food over there. So we eat the breakfast, what we can stomach, and we're like, all right, cool, like we're good. And he's like, so what are y'all gonna be doing today? And we're like, oh, we just figured we'd hang out with you. He's like, oh, well, you can't do that because I'm leaving. And we're like, oh, okay. And he's like, so where are y'all gonna stay? And we're like, wait, what? And he's like, well, where are you staying? I said you could stay tonight. He's like, I'm leaving on another tour in like 2 hours. And we're like, dude, all of our money's gone. Like,
Did you tell him this?
yeah.
Okay.
And we're like, we thought you said we could stay with you. He's like, yeah, you could stay tonight, like last night. And so we're all once again freaking out, about to be stranded. The train station area or whatever is now open. He's like, I can give you a ride to the train station. You can go back to London. So then now, like, legit, all of our money's gone. We arrive in London on this train with all our gear, Christy, me, and 3 other dudes, and we don't have another flight out of there for like 3 or 4 days. So, unfortunately, well, fortunately, but unfortunately, I was like, I don't know what else to do. We got to call a parent. We're like these little children over in London. We got to call some parents, and Christy's mom, thank God, bailed us out and got us a hotel room, and she did it for all the band members too.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were very fortunate that she was in a position where she could do that for us, but it would have been real bad.
What would you have done?
I don't know. Like, we had no money.
Yeah.
Like, we had nothing.
Go to a homeless shelter for 3 days?
I guess. Like, go sleep at the freaking airport.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, but see, then we would have had to get to the airport. That's
Yeah.
the other thing. It was crazy. So she got us a hotel, and she put some money in our account, and, we were able to live in London for a few days. But I don't know, man. It was a terrible, terrible situation.
Jeez, bro.
And we're super happy. And, like, now that I'm saying it, it's like it doesn't sound like that big of a deal.
No, it
But,
sounds like a huge deal.
This is before like any smartphone at all. Like, I don't even know if iPhone was out at this point. Like, maybe the first one had been out. This is 2006.
Yes, I think 2008 is when the iPhone came out.
Yeah, like maybe. I don't know. But either way, when did it come out? Let's look it up. Go look it up.
2008 is my guess.
Either way, there was no smartphone that you could be like, calling an Uber, or you could like look up.
2007.
Okay, yeah. So like even the iPhone wasn't out yet.
You didn't have a Blackjack? Come on.
We had a BlackBerry.
Oh,
but it doesn't do. It's not the same. Like back then.
Well, you still don't have money to eat or stay. So
yeah. But I'm saying like it's not like you could even open the Maps app and kind of see like, okay, here's where we are. There's another train stop 2 blocks away, or what. Like we knew nothing. We had no maps. There was no one around to ask. Like we would have just been walking around in the dark. So anyway, it was terrifying, but again, it was like a cool story. And there's many others that happened on that tour and on other tours. I'll have to tell you about the time we did a tour with a band called Kill Whitney Dead, and I slept in a house full of Nazis. That was crazy.
Oh, come on. You can't just tease that.
Yeah, no, that's for another day.
No, come on.
That was wild.
One more quick story. You don't have to tell how you got there. Just tell you. Well, you don't tell us like
we're
what the tour
in Florida. The guy from Kill Whitney Dead is like, "Hey, does anyone have somewhere to stay for the bands?" And these guys,
is Dead Man Reno.
This is Dead Man Reno and a band called Kill Whitney Dead. And this is a American tour. Obviously, we're in Florida, and they're like, "Hey, you can stay at our house." And we're like, "All right, bald dude, that's cool." So we show up, and they're like white skinhead Nazi, like legit. It was super weird.
Did they like say anything? Or like,
no,
do they have tattoos and stuff?
Yeah. Like you didn't realize it until you got with them and you like got in their house. It was.
But did they act normal?
Yeah,
like
they were
normal
super
people?
nice. It was so weird. So like that's the thing. Like, I mean, obviously that's horrible, but they were nice to us.
Oh yeah.
But like they had like swastikas and like crap like painted on their doors, and like
that's crazy.
It was so freaking weird. Slept like a baby. I was so tired. I was like, well, hopefully they don't eat us at night, because they also had like these weird drawings of like demons on their like graffiti art. There was a guy like sitting over in the corner like looking at like a satanic Bible.
What?
Like, it was
how do you
freaking I'm sure
you're making this up.
Swear to God.
I know you are.
I swear. Like it was super weird. One of the guys from Kill Whitney Dead was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. From my understanding, he's Jewish, but like maybe you couldn't tell or something. I don't know, but he slept in the van. But yeah, we went in and slept on the floor, and there were like these weird paintings of like demons looking at us.
Did these people did this place strike you as like a bunch of squatters stay here, or is it like they all have normal jobs? They're just weird?
No. I now even just talking about it, thinking about it, I'm like, I don't even know, like, I can't even remember if there was power in the house. I don't even remember. Like, it could have been like an abandoned house or something we slept in. Because, like, I don't remember, dude. We were exhausted. We showed up. We got in there, and we fell asleep, and then we left. You know what I mean? Like, it was... Touring is a weird life.
One day they might, like, break into this house and find your fingerprints and, like, come after you or something.
Well, that was a long time
That
ago.
was a long time
I don't
ago.
think... I think this was even... No, this was after our European... No, it was before our European tour. Yeah. That
Jeez,
was before... That was when we had done some, like, American touring and stuff, but...
That's insane.
Yeah, that was another weird situation.
Well, what a story to end on.
Yeah.
So
was
touring
odd.
was good? Question mark? Yeah.
I could also tell about the time, like, one of our band members didn't poop for, like, a week, and he had to do a suppository. And,
Oh, who hasn't? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
never happened to me.
those are the kind of... There was, like, on that same tour, like, one of the guys, like... I'm getting into poop stories now. I'm so sorry, but, like, he like... This guy, like, made him mad, so he took a dump off the second story, like, over the railing onto the guy's truck. Like... Those are the types of stories I was like, I probably shouldn't tell some of these, and I'm not gonna tell which band that was.
Well, I'm gonna cut you off before you
Okay.
tell a story you don't want to air.
Yeah, but there was like crazy crap that happened like that.
Well, we
too.
might have to do a follow up at some point because this sounds like it could go on for a while, and I'm very entertained right now.
Oh yeah, there's a lot
Well, I appreciate you.
that has
people
nothing to do with video production, by the way.
Well,
That's okay.
this whole episode did everything.
Yeah, you're right.
I
well,
did.
the
I did an episode
Q&A.
about marching band.
Hey, that's true. That's true.
So anyway, thanks for joining. A new thing we're also going to do is a recommendation. I have a recommendation for a documentary on Netflix.
I
There
was
we go.
waiting on it.
It's not the documentary that George won an Emmy for, but it is a documentary called Downfall, The Case Against Boeing. Have you seen it?
I have not.
And it is very relevant because a Boeing plane crashed yesterday.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible thing. And I think I find it very important that people watch this and, you know, obviously take it with a grain of salt. You never know what the creators have done to... But the story seems pretty true, and I looked up some stuff about it afterwards. So it's about the 737 MAX planes where a couple years ago, I think it was like 2016, was that the year that Trump became president? He's in it. That's why.
I don't remember.
He's not in it, but like they show a picture of him at one point.
Yeah.
Anyway, because he signs an executive order. Anyway,
Speaking of documentaries, we have to set up for a documentary.
yeah, no, that's why we're going
tomorrow.
So I know. So basically, it's about these plane crashes. It's super interesting. It makes me question the plane industry, and
Oh God.
with this crash, I think is relevant. So that's super dark, but like it's a great documentary. So like watch it.
Okay.
And Gavin would love it because there's cool animation in it.
Okay.
He went. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, comment, send us a question for our next episode. And the next episode that you see will be our interview with David Barker. Check it out. Super cool. Bye.
Bye. This podcast was produced by Nick Golden with executive producer George Edmondson, edited by Nick Golden and Gavin Manning. Be sure to subscribe, drop a like and a comment. Tune in every Monday for brand new podcast content, and we'll see you on the next one.